Hi my loves, welcome back to another video. How's it going? How are you guys doing? So in today's video, I'm finally going to be doing a February shop my stash. I've been wanting to do a shop my stash for I feel like years, and I've never gotten around to doing it because I'm always trying to concentrate on doing project pans and I'm never really doing that great in them anyway. So I've decided to take some of that pressure off of doing project pans alone, but then also doing shop my stash. I kind of just did whatever for January, but I thought February, Valentine's Day is coming up and I have a lot of palettes and blushes that I really want to test out, especially for this month. So without further ado, let's get into those. Okay, so this literally drawer has all of my blushes and highlighters in here, aside from all of the ones that I own from Flower Nose because I've had to put them away as I have literally no space in these drawers. Anyway, there's a lot. This is going to be hard to pick what product to use, but I think I'm going to pull out all of my Colourpop products which are in this kind of section here, and the reason for that is purely for the fact that these are screaming February and Valentine's, but also this was actually the Valentine collection 2 years ago, and I haven't actually gotten around, believe it or not. Was it 2 years ago? No, it wasn't. Sorry, it was last year. So it's been a whole year and I haven't really had a chance to play around with most of these products. So from that you can tell how neglected the majority of my collection is. So I know there's like 4 blushes and 5 highlighters. The first one is in the shade Cupid's Bow, which just looks like this kind of purple. But I feel like this has got quite a lot of like white base to it, so it's probably not going to show up as great on me. And that will be what helps me decide whether I want to keep these or not. So that's one. The next one is in the shade Woo Me, which is actually quite a nice one, and I think I will definitely be keeping this blush because that's gorgeous. Then I also have the shade Sweetheart. This is another blush, and this is one of those that are like, oh, it's not gonna work for you, babe. But that's what this one looks like. So that's gonna be one to test out. Then I think this is one. No, that's a highlighter. I'm gonna just do my highlighters at the same time. This is the highlighter in the shade In My Feels, which just looks like that. It's a very like lilac-y kind of shade, which is quite nice. Then we have the last of the blushes, which is Hot to Touch, and I just love these because of the shape that they have. They're really, really nice. And this is another one. I don't know how I feel about this particular color, so it'll be good to test this out and formulate an opinion through that way. Which means I only really have space for like 1 or 2 more blushes. But anyway, the next highlighter is the shade Making Memories, which just looks like this. It's very like icy. So there's that one. Then I have the Hearts of Gold, which I feel like this one might be one that gets decluttered because it doesn't really show up that much. That's one of them. Then I have You're Glowing, and this one, I don't know what I feel how or what I feel about this one, but this one probably be a keep because that's still a usable shade. And the last one is Love Struck, which looks like this. Again, one of those colors I've got to test out and see how they perform. So that's the highlighters. Kind of fit everything in my drawer. I'm keeping my MAC and one of the Patch of Tar ones in rotation again for this month, and I have space for some very small blushes or some of my Charlotte Tilbury or other liquid blushes from Made by Mitchell. Gosh, this is going to be interesting. I think I'm going to end up just moving these to the side for now because they take up so much space, but I'm going to pull out all 3 of my Charlotte Tilbury ones. I've got Pillow Talk Matte Beauty Blush in the shade Pink Pop, which just looks like this. I don't know if this colour is going to suit me in any way, but I'm going to try that out. Then I have this highlighting one in the shade The Original in Pillow Talk, so I'm going to keep this one as well, but it's going to go with the highlighters. And then the last one I have is the Hollywood in Pinkgasm Sunset, which looks like this. It's a really, really nice shade. It can be used both as a highlighter and a blush depending on what your skin tone is, and I think I'm going to try this one out as a blush. I have this tiny one by Ritual to Fill, And I think I might put this one in the rotation as well because it's a tiny blush and it does not take up much room at all. This is supposed to be like a sample thing, and I think even this sample will last me a very long time. This is one of those like eyes, cheeks, lips situations. So we'll see how I use this, but I'm going to put this in my blush drawer for now as well. I'm going to now just try to put all of the rest of these back in a way that hopefully can fit them all in, which I highly doubt, but let's give it a try. So with the eyeshadow palettes, I picked like a bunch of different ones that kind of fit the theme for me. There are definitely a lot more that I picked out than there are days in the month of February. Don't quite know why I did that, but there was some form of a process that just wasn't executed that well. Anyway, I picked out a bunch of palettes. I'm not planning on using every single one of them because I mean I'll have to do my makeup at least once every single day, and that means on some days I'd have to do it more than once. Knowing me, I'd be lucky if I can get like 5 makeup days in the month of February. But I really want to show you guys each of the palettes and kind of why I picked them, maybe what the thought process behind that. And just so you guys know, the ultimate goal is to kind of go through everything that I own and use it once to see if that's something I want to keep or if I want to let go of, just because I'm trying to condense my collection down. But every time I do like a massive declutter, it just doesn't seem to work. So I thought maybe I'll do like a mix of doing like a big declutter every now and again, but then also trying to just pick out things as I'm using that I don't like to get rid of because I'm not really enjoying them, you know? So I've brought the pile a lot closer to me so you guys can see kind of what I've got going on. It's a mountain, and I don't know why I picked the mountain when I only have time to go over a hill. Do you know what I mean? So the first 2 products I kind of picked out were some singles. I really have a bad habit of forgetting that I do own a load of singles. That's single eyeshadows, single pots, pan, like the cream ones. I've got some liquid eyeshadows and I always forget to use them. I also realized that there's some products that I don't like using, like liquid eyeshadows, because they crease. A lot of them do. So do cream eyeshadows. I don't know why I have so many. So this is why I've kind of like, I'm trying to force myself to use as many of them as I can. One of the ones I got was the Walk of No Shame from Charlotte Tilbury, and that's what that looks like. Sorry. It's a really gorgeous shade. Ignore my nails, they're so disgusting. I need to fix that. But that's such a gorgeous shade. I have one other one from Charlotte Tilbury and I do love it. I just feel like it creases on me a lot, and that's purely because I've got really oily eyelids, which kind of just really sucks. I would love to use a lot more of these. They just don't necessarily always work for me, so I'm gonna try this one out as well because it's a really nice color. The next one I had is a Colourpop single Super Shock Shadow, and this is in the shade Lounging. I also have a load of these. I actually got rid of a lot of my Colourpop singles. That is so stunning. I honestly, I got rid of a lot of them because I don't actually use them, and they did dry out and stuff as well, which sucked. And also there were some shades I wasn't really going to use, like a very yellow gold. Like that's not really a tone that I would go and use on myself because I don't really like that bright of a gold on me. There were some other colours which had completely dried out. Some topper shades which were like just okay, and I was like, there's no point in me keeping these for that reason. But I really want to use this whole like shop my stash to kind of get used out of as many things as possible. Continuing on with the singles category, I've pulled out all of my single palettes. Now there is no way I'm going to get around to using all of these, and I'm fully aware of that. However, I would like to use some of these because I feel like some of my Chaos Dirt ones have actually expired, and I want to say more than half of my collection has, which really sucks because they're not that old in my collection. This is the newest palette I got. These colours are absolutely stunning. They're gorgeous. Like this was their October release, I believe, and it's really, I think it was October for Halloween, but I have really bad memory. But yeah, no, I really like this, and I think I'm going to keep this one to test out every like a shade or two every now and again. I do have some single mattes as well that I really want to use, so I'm going to keep this whenever I use those. I have 2 palettes of Chaos Dirt singles. These were all the previous collections that came out, I think from 2022, possibly something in 21. I don't know if I bought things that long ago. That's what this palette looks like. And honestly, it's, as you can see, the shades are absolutely stunning. They're so like pretty. However, they've got a very strong smell of like an oil leak, and I don't like that scent. It's so strong. Some of the shades have started to irritate my eyes as well, so I realized those have definitely gone off, but I have separated them into two like different palettes. These ones I think are still kind of okay to use, but I kind of need to see it because these also have a very strong smell to them. However, this other palette, which I've got that looks like this, is the one that has like the really intense smell, and a lot of these eyeshadows have actually kind of like irritated my eyes, so I've decided to kind of put them aside and see just which ones I need to kind of get rid of. This whole process will probably take me like 2 years. I don't know, by the time like half of my collection will be expired of like all my makeup in general, but I don't know. This is just kind of what I noticed and I was like, oh, okay. Next up, I have this Makeup Geek palette that I did. I have condensed this down a lot. That's what it's looking like today. I got rid of a lot of my other like single shades from here. I do have like, I used to only have one highlighter and one blush in here, but I decided to move another one in here as well, just because the other palette that I had got from Makeup Geek was just, I just did not like it. Whereas everything in here pretty much fits really well. There's a lot of these like pinky ones I want to use for the month of February, so I cannot wait to dig into these. I bought these maybe like last year or the year before, but I'm gonna say like last year towards the beginning of 2023, and I have not used them since, which is a problem. And I've noticed that's pretty consistent issue that I'm having. I'm buying a lot of stuff and I'm not ever getting around to using it, and I want to change that, so gonna roll this in as well. And I think these 3 palettes are gonna consistently stay in every single one of my Shop My Stashes. 2 that I'm thinking I might end up decluttering after using them next time. One of them is the Too Faced Too Femme palette, which looks like this on the inside. It is really nice. It is really gorgeous, I'll be honest. But the pans are tiny, and I feel like I have all of these colours anyway, but in better quality. So I don't need this. I'm only keeping it because the packaging itself is just so adorable. But that's not a good enough reason to keep things. It just isn't anymore. And I'm getting kind of sick of the fact that I have so much stuff, because I want to use the things that I really love and enjoy. But I'm worried about things that are like mediocre in my collection. I want to change that, but again, that's just what this palette looks like. It's so nice. And this was the True to Myself palette. I have noticed there's been a lot of like problematic behavior coming from the owner of the brand, and I try to avoid buying makeup from brands that are like consistently problematic, or the owners are problematic. There's a lot of brands I no longer buy from or support, and also with everything that's just been going on recently, it just doesn't really feel right to do that anyway. This is what the palette looks like. This was definitely a really nice color story. I just feel like that glitter really ruined it. That's a huge pan for a glitter that you're not going to wear on an everyday palette, whereas all the rest of the shades are things that you can wear on an everyday basis. And even if you were to use the glitter, there is no way you're going to get through that unless you kind of like just stick it all over your face like a few times. The quality is decent, I won't lie, but I feel like you can get better products, better quality, better color stories and things from a lot of different places. So I wouldn't really buy it. I wouldn't necessarily recommend buying this, because I feel like you can buy palettes which have a lot more either product, colors, and the quality is better for like a similar price or even cheaper sometimes. Now for some of the smaller palettes, I've got one by Charlotte Tilbury. This is the Exaggerized one. I got this as part of like, I think like a gift set for Christmas period. But this is just what that looks like. I do quite like this. I know a lot of people don't like the quads, but the color story of this was quite simple, and that's like an easy one to use. So I picked this up and I want to kind of use it for this month. So I felt like I really fit the theme of February. And then I have 2 Huda Beauty palettes. This one's the Ruby Obsessions one. I think I've used this maybe once before. It is a nice palette. I love the green one from this collection a lot more than this. I don't really use red eyeshadows often, and I don't really think I use red at all, if I'm being honest. It is a nice colour story. I need to use it. I don't know if I'm going to keep this or not, but I do have 2 other like palettes from this collection, so we'll see. Then I have the Huda Beauty Neon palette in like the pink neon, which just looks like this. This is just the upside down way of showing it to you guys, but the shimmers are so nice. I used it once and I really enjoyed the look that I got, and I felt like, again, like February, very pink, red, this was just so on brand for the month, so I thought I'd pick this one out as well, so just do at least one look with. Next up, I have a palette from Pat McGrath. I bought this off one of my friends. It's a really nice palette. It's a quad that looks like this. I feel like these are very basic colors to use on like a regular basis. Like, I want to show you guys without like showing everything else in the room, but it's not working. There you go. This is just what it looks like. Again, it's really nice. I love that pink. That's really gorgeous, but I don't know, I have so many Pat McGrath palettes and I don't really rotate to use them. That could just be down to the fact that I have so many other things to use, and I'm kind of like stuck for choice, I guess. I have a couple of palettes from Colourpop. These are the £9 ones I could grab. There's Cherry Crush, Cloud Spun, and Strawberry Shake. The same problem as what I mentioned with the Huda Beauty palette. I don't actually use red eyeshadows very often, if at all. This is just what this palette looks like. I did buy the original, like the full collection when it came out, and I feel like I wasted half the products anyway. So note to future staff, don't buy full collections unless you're so certain you need it or you're going to use it. But that's just what the colour story looks like. It is quite a cute colour story. It's like very pinky too, which is quite nice. However, there's a lot of shades in here. I don't even know if I'm ever going to use this. Then I have the same, well, a very similar colour story in Cloud Spun. Oh my god. The packaging of this one is actually rubbish. But that's just what that palette looks like. This is more pinky toned, but I feel like there's some pinks in here I won't use. Like this bright colour, I probably won't use that one either. I have no idea if I'm ever going to use a glitter. And some of these shades, I'm not too sure if I'm going to use them or not. But I do like some of the other colours that are in here, and I'm not really 100% sure if I'm going to let it go. So I kind of want to use it to see if you can get like a good idea of how I feel. The other one is Strawberry Shake. This one I'm thinking about maybe letting go of, but I need to try this to get like a final decision. It is a nice palette. There are some shades I feel like I would swap out, and that would give me the perfect kind of pinky red palette that I want. So that's what I'm going to do with these three, kind of mix and match them to make my perfect palette. That's the goal, but let's see. I also have the new Charlotte Tilbury holiday palette, which I haven't yet to use. This is just what it looks like. It's really nice. I know it's got a lot of mixed reviews on it, but I love it, and I really need to try this for myself to see whether I regret the purchase or I don't. It's I don't know, but it is quite nice, and I do love the bright kind of colors that she's got in here as well. It's not like bright as in like a really bright palette, but I feel like for Charlotte Tilbury it's bright. So my old Too Faced palettes. This was the cinnamon bear palette, which came out I think 3 years ago. This is what the palette looks like. This was my palette last year. It was the biggest flop of the century, I feel like. I did not hit pan. I had some decent dips going on in like this shade, and that shade. Those were like the ones that I really gravitated towards, but I never really got a chance to kind of really use this. And I kind of like miss this palette, and I really want to use it for like February, because I feel like this again it really fits that theme really well. Do you know what I mean? And I also have the lipstick from this collection, so I feel like that in itself is just like the full look. I've got the blush in here, the red lipstick, it's just like perfect. Then I have an Ace Beauté Scarlet Dusk palette. This one I've thought about letting go of several times, and I've never gone around to doing it, because the formula of this palette is actually really nice. That's just what the palette itself looks like. As you can see, it's very red toned again. Some of these shades I feel like I'm just never going to get around to using, but there are some shades in here which I really do like that, just that matte. Oh, it's delicious. I do like that shimmer as well. I've done a look with those kind of, I think 4 colors. It's quite nice. Even that matte is really nice as well, but I feel like I need to use this maybe once or twice more to see if I really do love it, or if I'm just keeping it for the sake of keeping it for that one shade, you know. Another Pat McGrath palette that I want to use, this was the Mothership Rose Decadence, which looks like this. I'm trying really hard not to reflect anything because it's bright. That's what that palette looks like. It's a really nice color story. I feel like it performs really well. It's like really just, I love the tones in this palette, but I have so many similar Pat McGrath palettes. I just feel like it's not really worth keeping at times. But then I'm having a really hard time letting go, because it's just so nice. And every time I've done a look at this palette, it's just been really nice, and I've really enjoyed it. So I wanted to try this out again. I feel like also my Shop My Stash is basically me putting a bunch of palettes on my chopping block and seeing whether or not I want to keep them or not. So that's why there's so many things in here and I'm so confused whether I want to keep them. I have this one by Natasha Denona, and this was the mini retro palette, which looks like this. I've used this today for this look, and I don't know what I feel about this. I do love this one shimmer. It's really nice. That one shade is really nice as well. That green is a lot different to the pan than it is when I put it on my face. So I don't know what the outcome for this palette might be, but I am going to keep this one for now. Next up, I have an Odin's Eye palette, and this is a Saga of Freya palette. But this is the Amber Tears one. So this is what the palette itself looks like. As you can see, that is really nice. I love that purple at the top right corner, which is really nice. I feel like I kept it for this and that purple there as well, just because I don't have a shade like this at all. Even though I have an endless amount of eyeshadow, I just don't have one like this. So I decided to keep it. I do feel like Odin's Eye formula is really nice, and I have always enjoyed using those palettes. I was about to drop this one, but I've always enjoyed using the eyeshadow palette, so I want to kind of give this one a go as well. Also, it wouldn't be like on brand if I didn't pull out last year's like Valentine's collection palette from Colourpop. This was Flirty Talk from last year. I did buy the whole collection. Trust me, I regret it. This is what the palette itself looks like. I've used it a few times and I've gotten some decent use on this colour here. And I do like it. It's a nice palette. Sometimes I feel like letting it go because I feel like a lot of these shades are not ones I'm going to use. But every time I use it, I love how my eyeshadow turns out. And I really enjoyed using this shade, because I feel like when I use this one and I put this on top of it, it kind of really changed that colour and it really brightened it up. Of course it would, but it was just like, I loved the effect that it kind of had. I have the Sigma New Mod palette. Again, I feel like all of these tones just fit like February really well, so I had to pull this out. Also, I love this particular like colour story. I really want to get around to using this because it's such a nice palette, and Sigma eyeshadow quality is also really nice, so I want to get a chance to use it before it goes off. I have my Huda Beauty Rose Quartz palette, which I've not gone around to using still. I've had it for a while and it's time like I do actually use it. This is just what the palette looks like. We've all seen it, we've all loved it. I love this kind of like muted and like really cool toned colour story. It's one of my favourite ones to kind of gravitate towards. A lot of these shades I know that are like my kind of go-to colours if I was to have a much smaller collection. A few other Huda Beauty palettes that I threw into this collection, this Shop My Stash. One of them, another one is the Mercury Retrograde. I think this has been long discontinued, but that's what the palette looks like. It is untouched. It looks untouched because it is untouched. I've never gone around to using this palette because it sits at the back of my drawer, which makes it kind of hard to take out. But the colour story of this is so nice, and I really want to get some use out of this, so I pull this out. Hopefully I can use it even once. That'd be great. I might do like I look using a few of my palettes mixed together, like maybe using these two together because I feel like they have a really good cohesive colour story. Another Huda Beauty palette I have is a Desert Dusk palette. I decided to bring this out because I still haven't used this and I've had this for a while. This is just what the palette looks like. I think this is also discontinued, but the colour story is really nice. There's like the one glitter, I doubt I'm going to use that, but there's a few of these like shimmery shades here that I really do like, so I kind of want to use this at least once as well. And this is my absolute favourite palette of all time. This is probably like the top 10 for me. This is by Revolution. This is the Forever Flawless Allure palette. This is probably one of the only palettes from Revolution I would go hardcore for, because the quality of this palette and the colour story is just perfect. This is me in a palette. If I was a palette, this would be me. That's how much I love it. That's just what the colour story is. I've hit pan on one of the shades. I feel like if I was to bring this out again this year, I would end up focusing specifically on this palette and end up hitting pan on like half of these shades. I'm trying not to do that, but I do still want to get back around to using this palette. This was my Battleship palette. I did throw this into a project like two years ago, I want to say. Clearly it was a flop because I have a hard time with like being consistent with doing makeup, but again, it's just, I love the shades, the shimmers, just so nice. I have a bunch of my Natasha Denona palettes, and a lot of these were like very pink themed, pink palette, so I just pulled it out. One of them is the Natasha Denona Retro palette, which looks like this. This, I feel like there were some people who really liked it, some people didn't. This colour story is similar to the other palette that I just had from Revolution, so you can kind of dupe that with that palette. Yeah, that's a pretty close dupe in my eyes. But yeah, again, I do like this. The formula of Natasha Denona is interesting. I wouldn't necessarily say it's amazing. I'm not like the biggest fan, but I am a hoarder, so I end up buying loads. And I also have really bad shopping habits, so I end up falling into the whole FOMO situation really easily, which is not good for my bank. But that's probably why I have this palette. Not saying I'm not going to use it, because the colours are really nice in here, but I just need to remember to actually use the palette. The Natasha Denona Love palette. It was kind of just in the names. I had to bring this palette out. That's just what it looks like. I know this is one of the palettes that I have not received the best reviews on. I've used this once before and it was like, okay. So this might end up getting chopped, I'll be honest. Then I have the Sunrise palette, which is kind of like red. It's not screaming Valentines to me, but it's kind of like the red and those kind of colors. So I thought maybe this could be something I could use as well and play around with. Not guaranteed that it will happen, but it is still quite a nice eyeshadow palette. I also have the Natasha Denona Lila palette, or Lila, however you want to say it, which looks like this. This is one of those palettes I regret purchasing because I feel like I didn't really need it, and for the price it's not really worth it in my opinion. There's like very much like a very specific, it's a very purpley leaning palette, to be honest. If that's not your thing, don't buy this at all. And also for the price, if I was to go back, would have purchased this? No. I have this one by Cosmic Brush, which I think they've rebranded and they have a different name now. I could be wrong, but this is their Royal Rose palette, which looks like this. I got this for £4 because it was one of those which they said were like, there was something wrong with the quality of the palette, but I've swatched it and the quality seems great. I haven't actually used it on my eyes yet, so I really want to do that. Also, just those two colours particular, like, just can we, yeah, I'm gonna use those. I have a palette from Artitude Cosmetics. This is the VIP palette. This is what the inside of it looks like. It's quite a nice color story, but there's a lot of shades in here I wouldn't use, especially the dark kind of mattes. I'm not going to use that pink, wouldn't use that, don't really like that tone, wouldn't use that. I would definitely use these shimmers except for that gold. I'm not going to use that, possibly this. There's a lot of shades in here, like I mentioned, I'm not going to use, but I love the quality of her palettes. They're really, really nice. So I'm thinking of trying these out and seeing if there's something that I really like in here or if I don't like. And then I might just depot this palette and keep some of the singles because they are really, really good quality. And I do enjoy the products I have bought from her brand. The Amore palette from Melt. I'm very 50-50 on this palette. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do, but that's what the palette itself looks like. It is quite a nice palette, but there are just some of these shades, like, what is that compared to the rest of it? What is that? Like, that's so bright in your face, whereas the rest of it was a little bit more muted. I feel like if they'd carried on with that whole thing throughout the palette, that would have been really good and it would have been a lot more cohesive. But that's the only one colour that's like throwing me off. I think maybe that and the shimmer and then possibly this colour down here. Those are the three that are really throwing me off, whereas everything else just fits so well in this palette. But it's a cute one. It's quite heavy though. I could not forget about the Beauty Bay Love Notes palette. This is such a stunning palette. This is another dupe for one of the Natasha Denona ones. That's what it looks like on the inside. Can you see that? Yes, you can. I've used this once or twice and I loved it. I love the quality of these Beauty Bay palettes. They're really nice and they are also very affordable, which is why I would always recommend one of their palettes. The shimmers are just, they're shimmering, like the mattes blend nicely as well, and it's quite an easy palette to use. I picked out the Sample Beauty Equalizer palette volume 2, which just looks like this. These colors are really, really nice. I've heard the quality of this particular palette is also really nice, but I really wanted to kind of use this and see how it goes. Again, I feel like there's a lot of shades. Do you know what I really like about this palette, and I just think it's so well thought out? The name of this palette, the name of this color matches this one. So the top one is Stripping Down, and you got Tan O'Clock, Bittersweet, and it kind of just goes down like this. The middle row matches itself. The outer two shades kind of like are one, and then the like these two shades we want. I really like that about this palette. I thought that's quite like a unique thing. It's pretty cool, and also the shades in this are really nice, so I wanted to kind of use this one as well. The last palette finally is this one from Give Me Glow. I have been eyeing this palette since it first came out, which is so long ago, and I always was like, I can't purchase a palette because it's gonna be really expensive, shipping is gonna be really expensive, I'm gonna be hit with I'm gonna be hit with import tax, and I really was. It was the worst thing ever, honestly. But this palette is so nice. It's literally like all the colors I'd kind of love and I want to use. Also, what I like about this is the pans are massive, so you can use pretty much any of these shades as like a blush. So I like the idea of being able to multi-use your palette. I have an endless supply of blush, so I'm not really looking to kind of dig into them. But if there's ever a shade out of these that I really feel like, oh, I want to use but I don't want to buy a full one, like for instance this blush, just to kind of try it out, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to dig my blush brush into this. But it's a really nice palette. I love how it's like two tones. You've got like these couple of pinks, you've got these kind of purples here as well. It's really nice. And I also really liked the actual packaging on the outside too. I know Give Me Glow has an amazing formula. I did buy it, like I did a fairly big haul last year during Black Friday, and I really want to use this palette as well. Okay, so that was all the palettes I'm thinking about using for February. I know that's a lot of palettes, and I don't think I'm gonna get around to using all of them, but I'm gonna try to use as many as I can. I don't know if I'm gonna try to use two palettes at one go, or just kind of seeing how it goes. But these are the ones I really want to focus in on and try to use, because these are always the palettes I want to gravitate towards during February, and I always tend to forget, and I'm trying not to do that. So I'm keeping the pile close to me so that I can see it all the time, just so I can remember to use them. If I don't use them, please keep me accountable in the comments next time. But this is everything from my shop my stash. I hope you guys enjoyed that. This was so long, I know, I'm so sorry. I'll try to be like quicker in the next one, but I'll catch you in the next video. Bye.